We're 44 days until the election, and early voters have begun to cast their ballots. With perhaps the closest presidential election in modern history, the candidates are on the campaign trail making their cases. Donald Trump rallying voters in North Carolina yesterday, notably absent the man he's warmly backed for governor, Mark Robinson, after CNN revealed that Robinson called himself a, quote, black Nazi and made a host of other rather disturbing comments on a porn website forum more than a decade ago. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign is hoping that that scandal helps her eke out a win in North Carolina, which Democrats have only done on the presidential level once in the last 44 years. The Harris campaign is highlighting Trump's past effusive praise for Lieutenant Governor Robinson as she tries to lean into attacks on Trump's anti-abortion stance.
These hypocrites want to start talking about this is in the best interest of women and children. Well, where you been? Where you been when it comes to taking care of the women and children of America?
Trump trying to counter those attacks yesterday. He argued that women are poorer, less healthy, and, quote, more depressed and unhappy than they were 4 years ago. And joining me now is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who campaigned with Harris this week. She's also the author of a new book, True Gretch, What I've Learned About Life, Leadership, and Everything in Between. We've interviewed her about that book before. It's a fun read. Governor, it's crunch time. You're on a tour supporting abortion rights with Vice President Harris. Donald Trump was rallying supporters in North Carolina Saturday afternoon. I want you to take a listen to what he said would happen if he wins in a few weeks.
Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free. You will no longer be thinking about abortion.
He says that's because it will be back to the states where it belongs. What's your response?
That's just ludicrous. I think, this guy just doesn't understand what the average woman is confronting in her life in this country. And how could he? He's not lived a normal life, unlike Kamala Harris, who has worked hourly jobs, who knows how important it is that women have health care and access to the medical care that they need. And so he's just deranged.
We're learning about deaths in Georgia that are being blamed on the state's 6-week abortion ban, one of the strictest in the country. Republican Governor Brian Kemp, who signed that ban into law, he says the procedures that these two women needed were actually perfectly legal. And the problem is Democrats spreading, quote, egregious misinformation and propaganda that fostered a culture of fear and confusion, unquote. What's your response to that?
Well, if Republicans would just stay out of our doctors' offices, we would all be better off. We would all be safer. We would all be able to make our own decisions about our bodies. There's no question that Donald Trump's appointees to the United States Supreme Court has ripped these rights away from so many American women. Women have lost their lives. And if Governor Kemp wants to clarify the law and make it easier for women in Georgia to access the health care that they need, I'm sure that a lot of women would be grateful for that. But at the end of the day, it's none of his business. He should stay out of the doctor's offices and these important decisions that should be vested in and only in the women who they impact.
You're from Michigan, a big union state. For the first time in almost 3 decades, the Teamsters Union has decided to not endorse a presidential candidate. They have traditionally endorsed the Democrat. This comes after Donald Trump won the poll of Teamsters union members by 25 points. One pro-Harris union official told Politico that that poll is a red flag reminiscent of the 2016 election when Hillary Clinton underperformed among union households and among white men and ultimately did not win. Do you think this is all a red flag for Harris, especially in Michigan?
I can just tell you this election is going to be close. We've always known that. That's what happens in these presidential elections. And in a state like Michigan or Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, we know that this is going to be a close race. We also know that it was the Biden-Harris administration that saved the Teamsters' pensions. We know that there is one candidate who understands why collective bargaining matters. And that's why the rank and file members of the Teamsters have come out robustly in favor of the Harris-Walz ticket. We welcome and appreciate their support, but we're in it to earn the support of all Americans. And we're going to stay focused on an economy that creates opportunity for every person. And I welcome all the local Teamsters who've jumped on board. They're the ones on the ground, and they're the ones who are going to decide the fate of this election.
Your state's Attorney General, Dana Nessel, charged almost a dozen individuals from the University of Michigan over the anti-Israel protests. Among the charges, attempted ethnic intimidation, assaulting or obstructing a police officer, and on and on. These are pro-Palestinian protesters who are being punished and prosecuted. Michigan Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who is Palestinian, she called the charges from Nessel, who is Jewish, shameful. And Tlaib said, quote, "It seems that the Attorney General decided if the issue was Palestine, she was going to treat it differently, and that alone speaks volumes about possible biases within the agency she runs," unquote. Nessel responded by saying, quote, "Rashida Tlaib should not use my religion to imply I cannot perform my job fairly as Attorney General. It's anti-Semitic and wrong," unquote. Do you think that Tlaib's suggestion that Nessel's office is biased was anti-Semitic?
Listen, Jake, you know what? All I can say is that I know that our Jewish community is in pain, as is our Palestinian and Muslim and Arab communities in Michigan. I know that seeing the, incredible toll that this war has taken on both communities has been really challenging and difficult, and my heart breaks for so many. But as governor, my job is to make sure that both these communities are protected and respected under the law in Michigan, and that's exactly what I'm going to stay focused on.
But do you think Attorney General Nessel is not doing her job? Because Congresswoman Tlaib is suggesting that she shouldn't be prosecuting these individuals that Nessel says broke the law, and that she's only doing it because she's Jewish and the protesters are not. That's quite an accusation. Do you think it's true?
Like I said, Jake, I'm not going to get in the middle of this argument that they're having. I can just say this. We do want to make sure that students are safe on our campuses, and we recognize that every person has the right to make their statement about how they feel about an issue, a right to speak out. And I'm going to use every lever of mine to ensure that both are true.
Some states, such as Georgia, are enacting last-minute election rules changes, and some local officials are refusing to commit to certifying local results. Earlier this year, a small county in your state of Michigan refused to certify results in a local recall election. Are you worried about potential problems or delays in Michigan?
Well, I think we should all be concerned. There certainly is an effort to undermine our confidence in our democratic institutions. There is an effort to misinform people, and we know that there is false information that is rampant in everyday conversation in this country. And so I do think that we all need to be on high alert. I will also say this, though. In Michigan, we have codified a lot of different ways for people to participate in this election. We've increased penalties against those who threaten election workers, and we're going to make sure that our votes are cast and counted. And I'm not worried about the outcome. We may have some difficulties along the way because there are nefarious people who are trying to undermine our confidence in our elections, but we won't let them win.
Only a few weeks left until this is all over. We've heard other Democrats in your position suggesting that they want to see more from Vice President Harris and Governor Walz in terms of not necessarily speeches in controlled environments, but town halls with voters, more interviews, mixing it up, press conferences. We're only 44 days to the election. Do you agree? Would you like to see more of that?
I have incredible confidence in both the Vice President and Governor Walz. They have shown that they are happy warriors. They are able to answer tough questions, and they are eager to get back into the debate. I know that Vice President has already accepted your invitation for a debate. We'll see if the former president has the guts to take her on. All
right, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, thank you so much.
Thank you.